Hey guys, Philosopher here, talking about the X Factor team. They're totally bonkers. Now, look, I have been all in on X Factor for a long time, longer than anybody. I was the first person in the game to bring Longshot to Gear Tier 15 and bring him into Dark Dimension 4 back in December. Did the same thing with Shatterstar. Fell in love with those characters. I've been really trying to say for a long time that I think Longshot may be the best character in the game after Doom. I put him just recently number 2 after Doom on my top 10 list. And what happened? Scopely buffed him. Scopely buffed Shatterstar. And then they introduce a new X Factor character. It's ridiculous. It's insane. It's over the top. Unbelievable power creep. Unbelievable team. X Factor has got to move right up to the top of the upgrade list along with Silver Surfer. So let's talk about the new X Factor character, Polaris, and then I will talk to you guys about the changes to Longshot and Shatterstar and where I think this means the team falls in the meta. Should you be upgrading it over X-Men, over Shadowlands? How is it going to fare in the arena? We're going to talk about all that today. All right, let's go right into Polaris' kit. So the first thing you notice is that she's a hero controller. That means she's going to trigger the passive on Ebony Maw. So it's important for her to have a lot of health and to have barrier and other things to keep herself alive so that she never dies. And hint, hint, she's going to get that in her kit and her stats, which we'll look at shortly. So let's start with her kit here. Her passive is called Mistress of Magnetism, and it says, on self or ally X Factor crit, remove all deflect from the most injured non-summoned enemy. So here's what I would just say. Of the on self or ally crit, it is actually one of the weaker effects. In other words, Longshot's effect is when there's a crit by somebody on his team, he gives everyone speed bar. Shatterstar gives everyone barrier. She just removes deflect. And I think what Scopely did here is they realized that they had made a bonkers team and they tried to make this more of a war offense team. And so in war offense, this is an amazing ability because it essentially is going to negate the boosts that you're putting on war defense characters. But in arena, it's not as important, right? It's important against Sinister Six. It's important against the Blob. Characters like that are throwing around deflect. But can you imagine what this ability would have been like is, if it said something like on self or ally crit, remove one buff from the most injured non-summon enemy or something like that. It doesn't do that here. I think that's toned down. But look at the second one. This is really the most overpowered line in her entire kit. When an enemy attacks this character or any ally with barrier, applied bleed to that enemy. Think about it. She has the X Factor tag. You're going to use her on an X Factor team. There's going to be dupes everywhere, right? All 10 slots are going to have, or maybe 9 out of the 10 slots are going to have X Factor characters. They're all going to have barrier from Shatterstar. Some of them are going to get barrier from her as well. And when any enemy attacks one of those characters, they're going to get bleed. So not only is she going to hurt characters with bleed, you're going to see, or later on in her kit, she's actually going to deal additional damage to enemies with bleed. I think this is a sneaky good line that makes her really, really powerful. All right, now let's take a look here on war offense. She gets even more powerful, right? Everybody in the X Factor team gets more health from her, so you're definitely running her with X Factor. And then she's also getting max barrier and giving everybody else max barrier. This is huge. I'll tell you, I run the X Factor right now, Shatterstar and Longshot, in all game modes. And one of the issues that they have is that they crit so often that they cap out on their barrier. There's a 30% cap in the game. You can only get barrier up to 30% of your hit points. This increases it. It's just going to make X Factor even harder to kill once they get going. Now let's take a look at her basic. One thing I will say, by the way, with Polaris, because she's in global, I do think that this makes her less exciting as a DD4 choice because she costs 90 uniques, and I just can't see bringing her in on your first run to DD4 when you could bring in Longshot for 54 into Cosmic, for example. You could bring Multiple Man at 72 into City. I just think the global section is already pretty crowded. Anyways, let's get right to her basic. So her basic attacks primary target for 230 damage and adjacent targets for 200. This is also a sneaky good attack. Why? Well, first of all, it's applying bleed, but this adjacent target is interesting because her ultimate is like a Magneto type ability that pulls enemies together. It's not quite as good as Magneto's in terms of pulling, but if she targets the center, she's going to pull the enemies on the sides to them, and she'll be able to hit all of the enemies with this basic attack. So she's targeting essentially everybody, applying bleed to everybody, and then of course barriering an ally as well, which is going to generate more bleeds, right? So she's all about bleeds and barrier. It's a very interesting kit, but I think this is a sneaky good basic. Her special, barriers herself for 20% of her max health, then attacks primary and adjacent targets. Once again, they'll all be bunched up because she can use her ultimate on turn 1, just like Magneto. And she'll, instead of hitting them for 190 damage, they very well may have bleed if they've attacked at all, and then they'll take 250 piercing damage, which is higher because it ignores armor. And then it says here, this is key, the attack will always crit the primary target. I mean, she was probably going to be critting anyway, given ISO green, ISO, and soon ISO blue. But nonetheless, this makes sure there's going to be a crit, and it can't be blocked, so the deflects are not going to stop critting either. So a very powerful ability. She's going to do a lot of damage there. Her ultimate reverse polarity, a lot like Magneto, who of course is related to her in the comics, pulling enemies together, not quite as much as Magneto, but enough, and then attacking them for 300 damage. Also, like Magneto, that's unavoidable. Instead of applying blind, as Magneto does, she applies disrupted for 2 turns. And this line is another sneaky good line, flipping all regeneration to bleed. You know, Black Order now, you can start seeing them slipping with all the power creep. That's something that we've been talking about on this channel for a while. And this is going to be really devastating against Black Order because they get regen whenever Black Order allies start dropping in health. This is going to flip those to a bleed. It's also going to hurt teams like, for example, the Marauders. And then if multiple mana is an ally, she gets even more focus on that. So this is a very, very powerful ability. I think Polaris is a very good character. She could be even more OP. She could be more insane. But I think that, you know, they her very good. This is a character that, you know, is probably better than Magneto, but is not a legendary. And, you know, I've always said that because of this X Factor tag, you could put an X Factor tag on Yondu, and we'd be running Yondu with X Factor. Polaris is way better than that, so she's going to be running X Factor. She's going to make the team better. And, you know, people are asking me, how good is Polaris? I think we can't tell completely because of this X Factor tag. In other words, in a vacuum, she's good. She's not the best character in the game or something, but she's very good. But the fact that she's on this team and all the synergy and all the speed bar and all the shields and now all the bleeds, it could make this team quite bonkers. Now, there is a little bit more on her kit that I do want to mention here. She does get plus 70% focus, and non-summon X-Factor allies will also get 70% focus. So really helping the focus of that team in war offense. Now, I want to also just show you her health and damage and armor for a second. This is really important. As I mentioned, she's a hero controller, but she is just really, really hard to kill. She has health that's on par with Cull Obsidian and damage that's on par with Cull Obsidian, who's one of the top 10 health pools in the game and one of the top 10 damage pools in the game. Now, she's only 100 speed. They could have made her more bonkers by making her super fast speed, because one of the weaknesses right now of the X Factor team is that they do take some time to get going. And the other one is that they lack a cleanse. But, you know, so they're often better paired with a character like Zemo or Yo-Yo, who can quickly get out of the gate and get some crits and get them rolling, get their speed bar going. But nonetheless, even with 100 speed, which is the same as Sinister or Black Bolt, she'll get rolling quickly because she's getting all that extra speed bar. And by the way, we now know the stats on Multiple Man. He's also 100 speed, and he has that same Cull level health pool, although his damage is lower. You know, he is a character who is, as I said before in a prior video, you know, he is really interesting, not in arena as much, because his arena... his dupes in arena defense are going to be fodder for the symbiotes or for the Axemen. But I think his damage is high enough that you have to think the dupes will also probably have decent his health pool is high enough that the dupes, I think, will have decent health. I think the entire team is going to be able to stay alive. He's maybe the only X Factor character I consider running as something other than Raider. You might want to have him as healer because he gets all those heals from the dupes when the dupes die, and which could be boosted by ISO. And he only has a single attack ability, but very much an insane team. Now, by the way, as if this wasn't enough to make X Factor better, they literally went ahead and buffed Shatterstar and Longshot. I have no idea why. These were already two of the best characters in the entire game, but they buffed them all. So now Shatterstar used to apply defense down to one target. Now he applies defense down to all targets. That's literally 50% additional damage to everybody. And by the way, that attack cannot be blocked. So much for your deflex in Alliance War. And this buff, applies everywhere. And then on passive, on War Offense now, he gets 35% extra damage, and X Factor allies gain 35% additional damage. I will just tell you, I have already been running Longshot, Shatterstar with Ultron, Namor, and Squirrel Girl, and have been absolutely rolling the Marauders teams on Alliance War anyway, without these buffs. With these buffs and the additional X Factor, they will be insane on War Offense. No question, a Tier 1 War Offense team for some time to come. And there's not even, by the way, a fifth member on this team who could make this team even better. And by the way, they also buffed Longshot, who I thought was already one of the very best characters in the game. Now his basic can't be dodged, which was an issue when you were trying in Raid, let's say, to kill that sneaky Miles who would dodge all the time. And then his ultimate cannot be blocked, which is fantastic. It really helps when there's deflect in Alliance War. And then also, it lowers armor for all enemies if he's running on a full X Factor team. Amazing. Amazing. So what do we say? What does this mean about the team in general? Well, what this tells me, first of all, I've already expected that this team would be better than the Axemen. I've been saying that for a while. Axemen are a very good team. They're particularly good in raids. But I really think, the X Factor team with Longshot's passive giving all that speed bar and crit, this team was always going to be bonkers. It is bonkers. When they get their fifth character, they're going to be even more bonkers. So if you're looking for a team that's safe for the future, this is a safe mutant team to invest in for the long haul. They're going to be good for a long time. They'll get even better when that fifth character is added. And who knows? Could be a legendary. We don't know who that fifth character is going to be. Now, a lot of you have been asking me, is this team better than Shadowlands? Should I be investing in Shadowlands or this team? They're very different teams. Shadowlands uses different gear, different characters. Shadowlands is way more free-to-play friendly. This is more of a whale option to get these characters high. What I would say about Shadowlands is that they work differently. I think these two teams are both amazing in War Offense, but they're different. Shadowlands works by getting speed bar and going before everyone else to take out or disable through ability block for 2 turns a key enemy character like Doom. They can just go before Doom takes a turn and just shut him down. Or shut down Emma. It's a certain way that they operate. Whereas X Factor takes a little time to get rolling. So they need a team they need to go up against teams that start a little slower and take some time to get rolling as well. And then they'll just demolish those teams. So I think they're just a little bit different in how they work, but they're both going to be amazing. They're both going to be Tier 1 War Offense. And I think there's really a debate, and going to be a debate for weeks and months to come. Are these two teams better than Black Order on War Offense? I will say this much. They are going to be roughly on the same tier, and that's amazing. And so let's just talk briefly about the arena meta. So a lot of people want to know, is this the new arena meta? And I will say I think that Scopely worked very hard to make this team not the arena meta. So, for example, multiple man with all those dupes, as I said, on arena defense, is going to get steamrolled by the symbiotes or by the Axemen, even with the death proof on them. So I think that he can't be run on arena defense for sure. And I also think that by giving them bonuses on War Offense and by making their crits really focused on removing deflect and not being blocked, I think they made them more powerful in War without making them more powerful in Arena. I think in the short run, Arena is going to have Doom, Silver Surfer, and at least some Hero Cosmics, and that means Longshot and Shatterstar, who are both Cosmic, right? Those two could run with Doom and with Silver Surfer. I don't really know whether we'll see Polaris 2 as the fifth. We could. It's possible we'll just see Longshot of Polaris as well. I don't know. It just depends on how the meta shakes out. But I don't really see this full team being used in Arena, but it could be certainly a new player arena. I think it could, or a newer arena, but I think in a very mature arena, I don't see this quite being the Arena meta. That doesn't mean that this team won't see some action in Arena. Pieces of it will for sure, Longshot in particular, given his passive. And I just think in general, this team's going to be great against a whole lot of game modes. When you first unlocked Black Bolt, you didn't say, well, I couldn't, he's not quite as good at Arena. He was great all over the place. And I think this team is going to be great in a lot of different game modes. Great in Raid, great in Alliance War, have some use in Arena. An amazing team that all of you should be investing in. All right, if you like this video, click that subscribe button below, click that like button below, and then please check out our Discord, check out our Twitch stream. Our links are below for more content just like this.